Welcome on, welcome all to the Tortillas and Takes podcast. You are on once again with your boy, Albie Shore, and the 2024-2025 athletics season is almost over. Track still has national championships that they are going to go for, the outdoor national championships on the men and women's side. So it's still technically not all the way over, but we're almost there. And because we're almost there, we're just going to finish it up. We're going to wrap it up, right? A lot of the excitement that just happened recently, we got to talk about. We got to go through it. And so to talk about it, we got the people's champ himself, Jeremy Gillen. What's up, Jeremy?
What's up, Albie? What an interesting year. What an interesting and fun year. And not just for Texas Tech, but for the college landscape, the college sports landscape. And so really eager to see this offseason is probably the most active offseason for Texas Tech, I think, that I've experienced before, just in terms of what we're doing, in terms of the way other people are talking about us. I'm very excited, and I've said this in the past, I'm very excited for what's coming up, because those have been exciting moments, but all those pale in comparison to what we've got coming up across the board for Texas Tech in this 2026-2027 athletic year. So super stoked, man. Super stoked to see how things kind of develop over the offseason, especially as we start talking about football. Obviously, it's that time of the year where all the main sports are over. So people are, well, let's just start talking about football. Let's do all our what ifs this early. What if Texas Tech wins the national, and so it's the summer. So everybody's going to start saying whatever they want to with no consequences.
Jeremy is so excited that he's thinking 2 years out. I tell you, he said 26, 27. I'm so excited. 2 years from now, boy.
Maybe that was a vision. Maybe that's when we're going to hit a natty. And it just came to me.
I know what I'm saying. I feel you. And not just with Jeremy and myself here, but we do have, I guess technically he's back to being a guest now. He saw us crying and weeping and moping ever since he left us deserted out in the cold. But bringing him back onto the pod, we got the Red Raider expert himself, Joe Lopez, Mr. TTU Presidente. What's going on, Joe?
Gentlemen, it's been a while. I kind of feel like that basketball commercial with Dante Vincenzo watching Jalen Brunson and Bridges and Hart, and I'm just on the other side of the table, and y'all are just, just throw, hey, top tier analysis, whatever, it's great, man. I haven't really been on the mic a whole lot, since my departure from you guys and stuff like that, man. But just a lot of stuff going on in my life itself. My daughter graduated high school. Jeremy was there in attendance, holding it down for the Tortillas and Takes pod. I would hope you got your invitation or whatever.
It's on I was about to say it's on our fridge as we speak. So I'm like a proud uncle,
All right, man. Hey, we'll take it. We made sure that you got one. So, man, it's been a fast and furious couple of months with Red Raider Sports, man, and it's been fun. It's been a lot of soul searching in terms of writing content, because I'm not used to doing stuff like that. But, as far as the grand spectrum of things, you guys were the ones who gave me that platform to be propelled to that level. So I do appreciate that stuff, and great to be back on with you guys.
Absolutely. So I think first things first, we got to talk about the main thing that all of Red Raider Nation has been talking about, and that we are a softball school. Listen, let me say, so I got to give credit to Jeremy. Jeremy has been big on the softball program for many, many years now, right? He's not the only one, but he's been one of the more vocal people when it comes to supporting the softball program through the highs and I won't even say lows, most of the mediums, if you will, the averages, right? And so, admittedly, I have not been as involved. I mean, we've even had years where Jeremy's taken on softball while I've taken on baseball primarily, right? But I think, like the rest of Red Raider Nation, I had to tap in. I had to say, what's this song? It started a year ago because, as most people, I'm addicted to drama as well. So I'm like, ooh, what's going on with the softball team? Oh, why did this coach leave? That's interesting. Oh, Hoka, why can't you keep a women's sports coach here? What's going on? And then we paid $1 million for who? Okay, must be pretty good. Stanford, you know. But that's usually where it ended. I was like, okay, softball. I think Jeremy and you and I talked about it a year ago. Like, okay, softball program should be pretty good. Maybe we'll make a tournament this year. That'd be cool. Make an NCAA tournament for the softball program. Hey, who knows? But they stole our hearts and stole America's hearts. They made it to the Women's College World Series, all the way to the national championship game, and was one intentional walk pitch away from winning a national championship. So, Jeremy, I'll let you steal the floor here.
Truly, like you said, some lows, I guess, because we've had some scandal in the softball program, but mostly lukewarm mediums of like, man, this team feels like they can do it, and then we don't. It amounts to nothing. And really taking a step forward with Coach Snyder, who's obviously left and gone to Tennessee at this point, thinking that we were really building something strong. To now having a team that finishes as a national runner-up in the World Series, 54 wins on the season, 20 in conference. Every step that they took at the end of the season was historic for this program. We had Rocky Johnson Field sold out. It's as loud as it's ever been. It's just a truly insane rocket to this national stardom. And I will say, while there was certainly this narrative of like, thankfully, like people like Oklahoma, people like just everybody else getting annoyed at how much the announcers were talking about Texas Tech. There still was an SEC bias when we got towards the end there, right? In the way that they communicated about Texas in regards to Texas Tech, and very much this verbiage of like, Texas Tech's really lucky to be here. Texas Tech, had good breaks, blah, blah, blah. But for Texas, it was like they worked hard all season long, blah, blah. And so I was very pleased to see, even though we didn't end up getting the first game, which we really should have, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna be the guy to fault Nigel Kennedy for believing that she could strike her out. It is what that she took accountability for that and answered the next game. Getting to making it a 3-game series to a very good Texas team that has been at the World Series before, has been right there at the end of like, we can make this work. Pushing that team to its absolute limit and ourselves to the limit, i.e. Nigel Kennedy pitching for an ungodly amount of pitches in a row. Truly an awesome moment for Texas Tech fandom. And the way that last game ended really did suck. I'll be honest, I had to turn it off because I was like, this is not the Texas Tech team I loved this season. Meanwhile, my house is being berated by baseball-sized hail. But it was like, I got to turn away from this because it's too much, right? This is not how it should have ended. Truly a very proud season to look back on and say, we did a lot. We did so much after losing a head coach. And in any college sports world, first-year head coach coming in, I don't care who it is, there's usually some growing pains. There's usually some, there's some pullback or some there may be some progress, but not going from missing the World Series to almost winning the whole World Series within a year. That is I posed a question kind of in the middle of it all. Is Nigel Kennedy one of the best athletes we've had at Texas Tech? Because I think that we don't consider softball in that lens. But when it comes to program defining, think about the people that have come in and for 1 year taken you from not making a playoff scenario to being in a national championship level game. Not many. There's not many of those people within the Texas Tech lore. So really glad that more people are watching softball, really glad that the softball team performed. And as we'll probably talk about, really excited about the future of this program, even just next year, looking to capitalize and improve on areas that we felt that we were kind of lacking there at the end.
I can only think of, 3 players that in the span of 1 to 2 years just turned up so much to where they were the best player, one of the best players in the country, and really brought the team up with them. The only 3 players I can think of in Tech history are Jarrett Culver, Michael Crabtree, and Cheryl Swoops. And I save Swoops for last because to me, I kind of want to put Kennedy right behind Swoops. Like I think I want to put her ahead of Culver and Crabtree, which Culver, it took him his second year to become one of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
Crab won the Blitnikoff his redshirt freshman year, and then his second year was the year where he helped lead Tech to all the way up to the number 2 ranking. But Kennedy did almost pull Swoops. He was again that close to pulling the Swoops of that year, just coming in, showing up, leading a team to a championship. And so, but it really is. I mean, we're talking about Cheryl Swoops, one of the greatest women to ever pick up a basketball. Like that's what we're talking about here. Like I think we're in a situation where Nigel Kennedy in her junior year, her first season at Tech, is a candidate top 2 for softball player of the year, right?
Yeah.
Like she's going
back to back, yeah,
right, and she's easily coming next year is already ranked as the number 1 player coming back into softball next year. But I will say this. Before I get to my next comment, I'll let you kind of speak in here as far as what your thoughts on this softball team and Nigel Kennedy and some of the other players like Maya Davis and what they were able to accomplish.
I mean, it's really remarkable what we're able to accomplish. You know, yes, getting the reigning player of the year to your roster is, you know, a really good way to cap off what Glasgow brought from Louisiana, from Washington, and what he was able to retain here at Texas Tech. And a lot of people don't really take into consideration, you know, having to build a culture so quickly in year 1. And just like to your point, you know, the growing pains of a first-year coach, how are we going to make all these pieces work to this puzzle? And what Glasgow and his staff were able to do in that short amount of time and progressively get better, you know, each month, you know, it was Texas Tech wasn't the same team that played Texas earlier in February. I mean, that wasn't the same team. Obviously, they split the series in the World Series, but, you know, they played them tough in Austin. It's just, like I said, a lot of credit needs to go to Glasgow. I think in that same breath where you say the best athlete at Texas Tech ever, you know, in that 1 to 2 year span, I think the same could be said about Glasgow in a 1 year span nationally, not just Texas Tech. Like this guy, the first year coming in and, you know, doing this with a program that hadn't even sniffed, you know, where we ended up this year, you know, and to be able to get a team to buy in and get a team, you know, to compete at the highest level. You know, we weren't putting up 15, 20 runs a game. You know, these were, you know, 5-4, 5-3, 6-2, you know, they weren't just beatdowns, you know, they just found a way to win. And that grittiness and that competitiveness, he got the best out of it. And, you know, he's probably going to be the closest thing to that we'll have to a Mike Leach ever, if you listen to how he talks and how he operates this program. And it's like I said, I'm just glad he's on our side.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think one thing I do like that he mentioned is he pushed back on a lot of some of the media narratives, especially in the Women's College World Series. One of the things, and I will say this, ESPN was, and I'm not a huge critiquer of commentators or you know, a lot of times people are just doing their jobs and they're just speaking on what's popular, what's new. I don't have a problem with ESPN talking about Nigel Kennedy. I don't have a problem with them talking about Nigel Kennedy's NIL deal. Everybody knows about it. I do have a problem with them being in the Women's College World Series, Texas Tech playing we played up to 6 games, and that's all they talked about when it came to Texas Tech softball. Nigel Kennedy made $1 million this year. Nigel Kennedy's pitching. Nigel Kennedy made $1 million this year. Nigel Kennedy's hitting. She's good. Nigel Kennedy made $1 million this year. One, there's other players on the team. Just like you talk about the 30 different Texas players and the 30 different Oklahoma players and the 4 and all this other stuff, you can also talk about other players on Texas Tech's team. Again, I was talking about it before we started potting, and listen, I'm not going to act like I'm a softball expert because I'm not, but you wouldn't have known we had another good pitcher on the team, right? When the pitcher came up in Game 3 of the Women's College World Series, it was like, oh, well, she got an ERA in the 2s. She's pretty good too, but you wouldn't have known it. ESPN didn't mention it. They didn't mention anything else. And then not only that, and Jerry Glasgow brought this up of like, we've never brought up NIL. We don't bring up NIL conversations on the men's side. Like the basketball players getting paid much more than Nigel Kennedy's $1 million. We don't talk about how much JT Toppin's about to get paid next year, right? We made mention of it once. That's fine. It's cool. I guarantee you we're not going to hear about JT Toppin's compensation throughout the year next year, right? We're not going to hear about how much Darian Williams is getting out of NC State. We're not going to hear about how much that Kerwin Walton is getting next year as well. Like, we're not going to hear about it like that. We're not going to hear about all the stuff for football. Like, we really just, football, we don't really hear about it at all. So why is this a constant thing? I think it's a cool thing initially. Nigel Kennedy's making $1 million. Next year she's going to make 1.2. Great for women's athletics. Hopefully it's a recurring theme, and it already is a recurring theme. I think the Oklahoma softball team as a team is making over $3 million next year. That's awesome. But that's the only comment. It's almost, and that's when I saw a lot of people from Oklahoma rooting for Texas because they were like, well, Texas is built. They're not bought. I'm like, woman, actually, if I know anything about Texas, ain't nothing not bought about them. I don't got to be a softball expert to know that team is just like us in the aspect of being bought. All right. Just because ESPN doesn't talk about them 30 times does not mean it's not the truth.
Yeah, I bet Tegan makes that same amount that Nigeria makes. Tegan Kavan.
Yeah, Kavan. Like it's so I think those are the two things, is that the commentating was just kind of a little bit egregious, and it's tough when a school, and we're not a small school by any means. I'm not trying to compare us like Murray State in the College World Series. However, we are an unconventional school. We're a school that doesn't typically make the Women's College World Series. I would argue that we're a school that doesn't typically make or is not typically in the running for national championships in sports in general. Or at least not what you typically think of. We're going to talk about us making runs a little bit later in the pod, but it's not typically who you think of. And so talk about the story. Talk about, oh man, Texas Tech making their first Women's College World Series. They're all made all the way to the national championship game. Man, it's crazy what some of these ladies have been able to do. Like, that's the story, not the fact that Texas Tech was able to steal away Nigel Kennedy with some money. That's all that it makes it seem like. And so that was really my only, as I get off my soapbox here, was kind of my problem with some of that ESPN reporting, because it makes it like though I make fun of Oklahoma fans for being like that, it's hard not to be when that's all that the ESPN's talking about.
Yeah.
So as we kind of think about softball. So softball, if you are living under a rock, Texas Tech did lose in 3 games to the Texas Longhorns. Texas Longhorns actually won their first softball national championship. Game 1, extremely close, in a Tech loss where we were up late, but ended up giving up a 2-run double in the 6th or 7th to lose that game. We ended up coming back and winning in the 2nd inning. That was also very stressful. And then Texas, shout out to Texas for not making it as stressful in the 3rd game. They let us know really early on that we weren't going to win that game. So that's that is quite all right. I was talking to my Texas buddy, and I was like, I think it was the 3rd inning, and I was like, congratulations. And he was like, nah, man, y'all could come back. I'm like, listen, buddy, I've been here before when it comes to Texas Tech athletics. I knew to this, I'm true to this. I know what this is. That's fine. I appreciate you being a good friend, but it ain't happening. That's all right. But so Texas Tech softball comes 1 game away from winning the national championship. But again, I would argue this has been one of the best athletic seasons by any program in Red Raider history. So as we kind of close the book on the chapter of the 25 season, we look ahead already to the 26 season. And Joe, Glasgow's active. He ain't go to sleep on this season. Some announcements of some players leaving, some players coming in. What can you tell us?
Obviously, the biggest one was the All-American catcher out of Ohio State and Jasmine Burns coming over here, led the Big Ten in home runs with 25. All-American, like I said, I mean, she's a bat. She is a bona fide bat. She's she'll be. I don't know exactly what the utilization will be, because we know we have Vic Valdez, and Vic Valdez, caught a majority of the time for Nigeria. If she'll be used as that DP player, just as a back kind of situation, or what the situation will be.
Not to cut you off, but Vic Valdez running that third base stop sign.
Yo,
his moments.
So good.
It's amazing. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, that's by far like one of the better moments. Given that she had, I guess, missed the sign previously to take third or whatnot.
So it all kind of evened out. It all kind of evened out.
She didn't miss the sign. She didn't miss the sign at all. She's like, I ain't doing. She said, "Oh, when she got to the dugout, she's like, oh, sorry, coach, I didn't see
it." Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of big, heavy names in the transfer portal right now. There's not really confirmation on who's going, but I mean, I would assume, the bigger the fish that are out there in the transfer portal world, Tech is probably going to want to start talking to these people. UCLA has more than a couple of players in the transfer portal that are more than serviceable. Arizona has a few that are more than serviceable. So it just kind of depends on the need here. I'm assuming, just based on what we're seeing here and what we've heard, is that he's looking for another arm. And then some more firepower as far as batting, to get some more of those runs up and get Nigeria and whoever is pitching some more run support there. Shelby is also on Red Raider Sports. She runs Seeing Scarlet. She's done her research, and I got this information from her, that Glasgow usually tends to keep a 20 to 21 person roster, even though you're allowed to have 25. That gives you all the flexibility in the world to start playing everybody, to see kind of what you have out there. And he's been known to do that back from his days with Louisiana, and then even coaching when his kids were playing softball. So he likes to keep those rosters kind of slim, just to bring everybody in, to see what you actually can contribute to the team moving forward, and then the rest of the roster kind of fills itself out. So I expect some bigger names to be head into the 806. There are some rumblings out there that some of that stuff is happening, but as like last year when we were talking about this, the Nigeria Kennedy thing was kind of hush hush until it just happened. Hey, we kind of don't know. Oh, there's rumblings that Nigeria is talking to Tech. But we do know that John and Tracy Sellers are committed to this program as much as Cody Campbell is to the football program. So and he's a part of that Double Eagle umbrella as well. So you'd have to expect that, some money's going to be thrown around on the softball side to get some more help.
I do find it funny. So, of course, the Matador Club also got money as well, but I do find it funny that we have like key boosters for certain programs, right? We got like Cody Campbell for football, we got Dustin Womble for men's basketball, and then we got the Sellers for softball, right? So, so that's that's a good time there. And then to your point, Jazz Burns. Listen, Jazz Burns committed on June 7th. I think the national championship game was like 2 days prior. Like that was. Listen. Okay, that's another one like you were talking about where it just happens. That one was Burns was just waiting. Like, hey, when can I announce this? Y'all are, when can I announce this? I will say this: as much as I disliked ESPN talking about the money, you know who heard about the money? Everybody else. Oh, Tex paying. Tex paying what? Oh, okay.
That's exactly right. Unintended consequence of like the over focal point on the money is that two things. One, damn, Texas Tech didn't make the World Series last year, and now they're playing for the Natty. And how did that happen? Wait, they're paying out what? I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna DM them.
Yeah, let me get in that bag. I could love it. Actually, let me tell you something. I've been to Columbus. All right. I'm not going to say Lubbock's better than Columbus. Columbus is a city, but it ain't a huge difference. Okay, that's just something to say like that. Columbus ain't something that I'm going to really miss leaving. Columbus, Ohio, that is. We did.
I'll tell you what, they're not making move to Texas commercials. They're making move to Ohio commercials because they're desperate. So
that is true. It's funny you say that. We always talk about Waco being a terrible college town, but they do have move to Waco commercials. They do have. Hey,
as soon as they start publishing those commercials, they're cooked.
Yeah. So we do have some departures. So Anya German was freshman last year. Catcher, she's gone, as is Brentley Gonzalez. Left-handed pitcher, Kylie Huffman, an outfielder, and Sydney Schiller, another outfielder. All of them were freshmen last year, so I think there's a big push to get older, a little bit more veteran experience. Also, Reagan Jennings, probably, Jeremy, I could be wrong, but probably the biggest loss of the group, right? A little bit older. She was a sophomore last year, but wasn't a full-time starter, kind of off and on, but a big bat from the H. So that's, there's that. But I was joking before the pod because we see it in football, we see it in men's basketball. Hey man, you could stay, but you're not gonna play. We're getting better. So, and the fact that the softball program's now at that part, they're at that part of like, hey, we got our own. What did Coach Prime say? We got our Louis. We got our Louis. So
I'm bringing our luggage.
Yeah,
bringing our luggage, and it's Louis.
Exactly. So that's what softball is right now. So it's really good. And we were talking about this pre-pod as well. I think now we've made the run, but the run can always be a fluke, right? It happens. It can always be a fluke. But the goal now, and you're already seeing with the Sellers, you're already seeing with Glasgow, and getting someone like Burns on the program, and making sure that Kennedy is here for another year, is to stack success. That is it now.
That's right.
Jeremy, where the hell is the banner? Oh, there it is.
Oh, come on.
Stack success. So that's the goal, right? Make this a program. And I know we were talking about it in the chat as well. Oklahoma will be back. Texas will be back. And so Texas Tech, we got to be back too. And so we got to be one of those top tier programs. Especially since, let Oklahoma and Texas fight it out in the SEC. And on although like the SEC is the top conference in softball, let them fight it out. Let them do them, right? And I'm not saying the Big 12 is any slouch, but we're not, we do have Oklahoma State in our conference. I think we also have Arizona in our conference, but it ain't the SEC. So let us win our conference, and then we can, get up in there when it comes to the NCAA tournament. So, Jeremy, anything else to say about softball?
Really exciting time. You may feel like, hey, I missed the bus, can't hop on it, but right now is the best time to hop on that train, right? This is only 1 year into Coach Glasgow's. And so I will say, we talked about this when Coach Glasgow signed his coming over contract. You have no idea how long you have this guy for, right? He's a lot later in years in terms of coaching. Now with modern medicine, you just don't know how many years he's going to give to this program, honestly, whether it be, 3 years or 5, 7, you don't know. It's not a lifetime, but he's definitely created huge inroads. And I think he came on at the right time with all of the NIL stuff right before we kind of all the hammer came down. And obviously the Sellers family recognized that, no doubt, with kind of like the verbiage from Cody Campbell, because he was doing the same thing on the football side. But it was this, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it now. And he came at the right time, and we got our foot in the door, and now athletes recognize Texas Tech. Even if some random pundits pretend like they don't know what conference we're in, athletes recognize it 100%. And so it's a very exciting time to be a fan of this softball team. And like you said, we are losing some quality players. We're losing an absolute hitter in Reagan Jennings, somebody who I wish made more of the lineup, more of the hitting lineup, but it's okay. That woman, she could find grass whenever she wanted. But supposedly going to have a lot of really good people come in. And I'm very excited to see the future of this program, not just this upcoming year, but like how does this program sustain that over the course of 3 to 5 years. So it is the right time to be a Texas Tech softball fan for sure.
So with that, not just softball, but let's talk about the athletic year for Texas Tech sports, right? So Texas Tech football went 8-5, one of the best seasons we've had in a while. As they continue to progress. The soccer team finishing second in the conference, going to the second round of the NCAA tournament, also having and continuing Coach Stone's success there. The volleyball team played games. The men's basketball team had an incredible year, right, making it all the way to the Elite Eight. Very close to not only a Final Four, but potentially a national championship. Wouldn't it have been incredible to have Texas Tech versus Houston in these national championship game in San Antonio? We would have burned the city to the ground. I'm now convinced that we had lost the game for the betterment of the country, right? Right. We didn't. Here's the thing, guys. We didn't want Trump to have to deploy the military onto San Antonio, right? We didn't want that to happen. So we had to let Florida win the game, right? We're the good guys here. So men's basketball having an incredible year. Women's basketball bounced the ball. They put a uniform on and showed up every game. And when I say show up, I mean literally stepped on the court. So good for them. And then as we kind of think about some of the other programs, track and field having an incredible indoor and outdoor season as they go to the NCAA championships on the outdoor side. Baseball, swung bats, took live BP every game, especially in non-con. Shout out to the Big 12 having an absolutely awful conference season to really make that look a lot better. But the baseball season having one of the worst years in program history. But the softball team, backing that up and doing really well there. For golf, men's golf good, women's golf, tennis, if I have it correctly, women's tennis good, men's tennis, So that's the season in a nutshell. So Joe, I'll let you answer first. What grade do you give the Texas Tech athletics program in the 2024-25 season?
A-. Solid A-. Yeah. I mean, you had track indoor and outdoor Big 12 championships. The women's first indoor championship under Coach Kitley. Softball, obviously, we know what softball did. Football, it could have ended better in that bowl game. Men's basketball, we let Florida, just kind of whatever.
Did it for the betterment of the people, Joe.
Yeah,
it was for the people.
For all the Lime scooters in Lubbock, Texas, that was what that was for. Things like that. It's solid. I mean, you can't ask really for more other than maybe a bowl game win. On the football side, maybe, and
it's exactly what you're going to ask for, Joe. I mean, it's exactly what you're going to ask for.
I mean, as bad as the women's basketball was, I mean, they did make a run in the tournament that they were in towards the end of the season.
That's true.
Which was remarkable, given what the body of work up into that point. So, I mean, I think an A- is a solid grade for the season for Texas Tech athletics.
Jeremy, what grade do you give?
I was gonna say A-, so I'm not gonna copy Joe.
Wow, how original!
I think
how original. Yeah, I was gonna say A-. How original.
Anyways, so I'm gonna. I'll actually say B+, and the reason I'm going to downgrade it to a B+.
I'm gonna tell you. Listen, just let me copy your answer. Make sure you change it a little bit when you turn it in.
No, I think this was here for me. I think to get to the A mark, you got to have some serious hardware.
Conference titles don't do it,
and that can't just be how many conference titles did we get?
Let's see here. So
4 for track.
Yeah, that's one. So one
men and women at least.
Okay, you have to.
Tennis was the Big 12 championship
Softball.
for the women.
4.
Soccer 4, and then
Okay.
Softball. Wait, you said softball.
Yeah, it's softball. And then we finished, soccer finished second and basketball finished second.
Yeah. So your big sports that everybody wants to pretend like aren't the only things they care about didn't really supremely. Now, I know us on this pod, man, we are all sports included. Like we have a lot of really good, huge soccer, dude. I love our soccer team. The softball team really making this year feel worth it. But there are huge misses this year in the bigger programs that you spend a lot of money for, like football, like basketball, that for me, I'm like, man, in women's basketball, especially, like women's basketball's failure as a program this season just single-handedly drags you down from an A for me, because I'm like, people, you look at that and you think, what are you doing? And then the response for that isn't, let's change up leadership. It's like, let's ride this thing out, baby.
Hey, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
What?
One more year. One more
year. And you're just like, what are we doing? So I think a B+ for me, solely because of how poorly like women's basketball performed and the response of the department on that, but also because I do think football was like, man, you were like one solid win away from being in the football playoff conversation, and it was your fault why you weren't there, pretty much, right? And I think that basketball had a couple of games throughout the season where it's like we really should have done something a lot differently. I won't fault at all in the postseason because we worked our ass off and Florida just couldn't miss. But there's, it just depends how we're weighting these things. So B+. But I think this was a tremendous, and that's not a bad thing. This is a tremendous year. You don't have any natties under your belt. So for me, I think like if you had a national championship in something, easy A, right? So if softball would have beat Texas, easy A for this season. But because we didn't, I'm just trying to like weigh stuff a little bit more.
So, Joe, I want to give you kudos for bullying Jeremy into the right answer, which is that B+.
Oh, how original! How?
Hey, Joe had to bully you into the right answer. All right. So I'll say this. I actually almost wanted to say B, but I'm going to say this. I do agree. We had 3 programs that had 3 of the greatest seasons in program history: men's basketball, women's, or 4 if you count tennis. So men's basketball, softball, women's track, and then women's tennis. That's 4 programs that had 4 of the greatest. Actually, you could even argue soccer had one of the top 5 seasons in program history as well. So, like, women's athletics, with the exception of one sport, is absolutely killed it. Well, 2 sports, but volleyball. Anyways, but yeah, so like there's so many sports that have like some of the best seasons in program history that I do vault it a little bit higher and put it at B+. However, you also had 2 sports. Well, one sport that had one of the worst seasons in program history in baseball, and one sport that women's basketball didn't have one of the worst seasons in program history. But it did have one of the most defeating. Like it was very defeating this year being a Lady Raider basketball fan. It was very just like, okay, here we go again, right? It was that Joey brought up a great point as far as that tournament. Brought a sliver of, this is what it's like to have joy again. But it was just a very defeating season, right? It was technically better than last year, so I guess it's not as bad as like baseball. But it just really made you feel like this is it with this team, huh? And then of course everything that happened afterwards, right? Jazz Shaver's leaving, us not getting Chavez, like, so it just kind of beat you down even more. So I kind of agree. I can't give it an A because of baseball, because of women's basketball, but I also. It's right under like an 88 on a test, right? Because of some of the great seasons they had. I will say another reason why I can't give it an A is because for the longest time, especially when Jeremy and I were at SB Nation, we always used to talk about how Texas Tech, all we ever want as an athletics program is to just be respectable, right? To just in football go, if we go 8-4, we'll be happy. Basketball making us a tournament, just be respectable. Don't embarrass us. Be respectable, and we'll be happy. With the exception of some sports, I actually think we've done that consistently in a lot of these sports. Men's basketball has done that consistently. This year excluded, baseball has done that a lot, where we became one of the better programs of the last decade in college baseball. Right now, softball is making their run to the NCAA tournament. Track's won both an outdoor and indoor national championship, and so now we're at the point as a program where respectability isn't good enough anymore. So I am now going to stop rating Texas Tech on a Texas Tech scale. I'm now going to start rating us on a national scale, because that's like, because now that's where we are now. Like, now we're in the national conversation. Now that double T is being plastered at a lot of places. People have to think about Texas Tech now more than maybe ever. Right. And so, like, I think we're no longer on the Texas Tech scale. We're no longer typical Tech. Right. We added to the trophy case. We are in the title conversation. We are spending over $50 million. We are right now, and a couple of reports put this out today, that Texas Tech is spending more on players than any other program in the nation. That is insane. But it's the case. We're spending over $50 million on the athletics program as we go into next year. That's across the board. That's football. That's men's basketball. I know it's women's basketball, even though it shouldn't be. It's softball. It's I know it's baseball, even though it shouldn't be. But like, we are spending money across the board, right? Tadlock, who's infamously known to not want to play the NIL game, he played in the NIL game because we have to, because that's where we are. That's fine. Right. And so, because of that, we have not just boosters like the Sellers, like the Wombles, like Cody, like the Campbells, that are saying that, hey, we want to make sure the Texas Tech's in the national spotlight. Have the Matador Club, like, take the boosters away. The Matador Club alone is one of the richest NIL collectives in the country. So fans are saying, we're tired of being typical Tech. We want to make sure that we're in this. And so the scale's gone. We're now, it's time for us to think of ourselves as a national program. So Joe, where do we as an athletics program go from here?
I mean, I think the trajectory is already kind of proven. I mean, the concept, right? Now, like I said, just getting the best players necessarily doesn't always translate to W's or instant W's, but if
ask A&M.
Yeah. Exactly. But I mean, if these are the rules and these were the guidelines where we operated under before the settlement and stuff like that, we're just playing the game better than everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and then we just go back to the drawing board. But I think that we're at that time, especially with the football program right now, with all of the transfers that happened in the football offseason, now to finally make that jump, that long-awaited jump in the Joey McGuire tenure, that says, hey, we need to be in Arlington at the least, playing for the Big 12 championship game. Softball's already shown what we've been able to accomplish. Baseball has shown us that it could make it to the College World Series. Now we just have to, go under a different guidelines of rules with NIL for Tadlock and them. And, I think they've already started making the right moves there as it pertains to the coaching staff and getting rid of Gardner and everything like that. Now it looks like they're ready to kind of turn over a new leaf with the baseball program. Coach McCallison, I'm just counting it down. I mean, it's just a matter of a year or 3 that he's going to take us to the ship. I mean, that's just what he does, man. I mean, his body of work, there's nothing that screams at all. We won't be playing for a national championship in the next 1 to 4 years. I mean, I think that's kind of the current trajectory where our basketball team is right now. And then, the other sports, the volleyballs of the worlds, maybe they become relevant. Maybe something happens with the women's basketball team. Who knows? Right now, it's still kind of in flux. The the following in the masses just quite isn't there yet because of the whole Gerlich situation. You know, some people were like, hey, let's just move away from all of that stuff, and we didn't. Let's run it back one more time and change some coaching staff pieces, thinking that could potentially have been the issue as far as a recruiting standpoint, as far as a player development standpoint, you know, this, that, and the other. Who knows, man? But I mean, track is going to, as long as Kitley's running our track program, I have no worries with track.
Yeah.
You know, as long as Tom Stone's with the soccer program, have no issue with our soccer program. Our tennis team, our golf teams, you know, are starting to gain traction and momentum as well. I mean, these, you know, we're going to be all right. I mean, and like I said, the trajectory where we're at right now, it's clearly heading up.
Yeah. And these coaches in NIL are making me watch sports I didn't really watch before. Again, I wasn't the biggest softball fan, but I've watched more softball games this year than maybe in my entire life. Shout out to Jerry Glasgow and the team for forcing this upon me. And I'm not upset. I'm not upset at it whatsoever. Jeremy, where do we go from here?
On and upward. Like I said, in a lot of our programs, there is just kind of this foundation that's been set, right? Whether it be through the NIL, whether it be through coaching pedagogy, whether it be through, just recruiting and all the things. You are poised to take very powerful steps forward. I mean, pretty much everything as Joe just said. Basketball, you're right in line with where you want to be. We've had a lot of really good recruiting in that off season. Football, I mean, you couldn't get any more buzzed off of the football buzz that's going on. Everybody wants to talk about Texas Tech, whether it's our largest contiguous football facility, or it's all the money that we're spending, or it's the fact that you're a $55 million program, probably the most expensive program in college football. Baseball, you finally fired the demon that ruined your entire it's been ruining your seasons year after year. It just seems like for the majority of the programs that you're just in a really good spot, whether that's continued success in programs such as basketball, such as soccer, such as track and field, or your bourgeoning success, such as softball, such as football. Even in the scenarios of, say, women's basketball, I would think even at the end of the rope, there is always some good news, because whether Gerlich gets the boot this season or she doesn't, usually that's going to be like a signature of we're turning the chapter on this crappy time of basketball. We're trying to move on. And we've gotten some good conversation about that. And then what does it mean if Coach Gerlich does end up leaving? Are there going to be any inroads for important transfers coming to Texas Tech in the wake of that? You never know, right? So, but I think that the athletics program right now really capitalized on kind of that Wild West environment of NIL, and now they're going to come down with a hammer on terms of like what you can do. But we've already gotten the roots set up in terms of revenue sharing, in terms of all these things. Like, scummy or not, I think that our boosters, I think that kind of the collectives around this, I think they did a really good job at positioning like this financial ecosystem around Texas Tech that's going to make you pretty hard. We are the weeds that Roundup is refusing to kill, right? Because like they can kind of continue to put their, hey, we're going to put more regulations in here, we're going to do more of this. It seems like Texas Tech is staying a step ahead in the game. That's
a huge point. We are continuously a step ahead. And so, like, for example of this is that, and we they can't see the future. However, maybe they can, because Womble building the basketball arena facility at the time that he did, right before NIL, was perfect, because now nobody's really updating their facilities anymore because they're putting more of that money into NIL, right? So what ends up happening is that Texas Tech basketball facility is going to remain one of the best in the nation for a very long time, right? The new football facility is going to remain one of the best in the nation for a very long time because nobody else is investing in it, right? One of the recruits, I can't remember which one exactly, actually said, I could have got more money elsewhere, but the facility is what drew me to Texas Tech, right? What is, I mean, you know, and sometimes as players, yeah, I'm going to make $500,000 here. I could make 550 there, but man, they got a freaking ice chamber, you know, or a massage, full on zero gravity massage chair thing, right? I don't need the extra 50 when they're going to make it easier for me to get to the NFL, right? Stuff like that. So that happened. And then if you remember when NIL was first announced, we had a whole pod episode about it. The fact that Hokut, to his credit, put together and was one of the first ones to have an NIL program, right? Way before it became the Wild Wild West. We were the first school in the nation to put it out. Right? We were also the first school in the nation to publicize our revenue sharing model when it was announced that there was a good chance this was coming out. Right? Cody Campbell said, hey, Trump, hey, Saban, hey, Tuberville, I want to be part of this committee to really be in charge of this. When Trump went away, he was like, hey, I'm going to still keep working at this. Right? And I saw some tweets being like, oh, okay, great. Revenue sharing is coming. Campbell and Texas Tech can't keep doing this. But guess what? We can, because nothing is stopping NIL from being on top of revenue sharing. So it makes us even more dangerous. It's what happens whenever the guy that's making the rules is a Red Raider. It helps, right? So, and it's only a matter of time before Cody Campbell runs for congressman in Lubbock. But it's only a matter.
That's his own thing. This is his own thing.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time. Anyways, so yeah, we have continuously stayed a step ahead. Meanwhile, other programs in Texas have stayed a step behind. Baylor, surprisingly, has not jumped into the NIL bag as much as I thought they would. SMU absolutely has, but I mean, that's just part of the history. Like that's
the tradition.
That's tradition. They bought their way into a conference. Hey, all power to them. Good for them. But Baylor, surprisingly, I mean, don't get me wrong, they play the game, especially in men's basketball, nowhere near as much as I expected. Right? They allowed TCU to completely leapfrog them in women's basketball, and Texas is also right there in women's basketball when Baylor had a stronghold in the state on it for a little bit. Their baseball team hasn't really improved there. Their football team's they have a pretty good quarterback, and I think that's keeping them afloat right now, but they're not nowhere near as aggressive in the NIL game as both Tech and TCU and SMU and Texas and A&M are, right? So if you're Baylor, you're now dropped to the 6th when it comes to funding in that aspect, and it's only a matter of time before Houston also starts spending like they should. So there's that. But there's one program that spends NIL money like crazy. Ain't got no problem spending NIL money, but hasn't, and even when it was illegal, but hasn't really garnered the same level of success, and that is the Texas A&M Aggies. If you are under the age of 28, you may not know that at one point in time, A&M used to be a very heated rival of ours. I personally still hate the Aggies more than any other school on the planet. I don't care that we haven't played them regularly in over a decade. Or actually 15 years now. I can't stand them, right? But there's no question, there's no question that Texas is, from an athletics point of view, full athletics point of view, the top dog in the state. They always have been. And now that they're back in football, they're going to continue to be. That's fine. I'm not here to argue that. However, number 2, and it's funny because a Texas fan is actually the one that brought this up. I think the assumption is that A&M is the number 2 program in the state, but are they the number 2 program in the state? Football was about even. Both teams went 8-5 with a loss in the bowl game. Men's basketball, A&M did beat Tech. However, Tech made it to the Elite 8, and let's be real, had a better season overall. Like I don't care that we lost to A&M without our best player early in the season. Women's basketball, yeah, it's A&M. But baseball, both teams stunk. A&M had a much better non-conference record. Tech had a much better conference record. Both teams stunk. Softball, A&M was the number one team in the country, and then became the first number one overall seed to not make a super regional, which is hilarious. And then Texas Tech went all the way to the national. It was the national runner-up, right? And so track, both teams doing really well this year. Of course, Tech ended up winning the Big 12 Conference Championship, but A&M is ranked higher. So, I mean, the question to you, and I'll start off with you, Jeremy, is who is the number 2 program in the state of Texas? Is it Texas Tech or is it Texas A&M?
So I think, are we just doing this? Because when I'm thinking about the question, I'm like, let's look at a little larger body of work, right? In terms of overall, I think of 2 big things. I think of like overall success and maybe like fiscal dominance, because that's always a conversation when it comes to like, yeah, Texas is number 1. They're the flagship. They have the most money of any school. And, just because they didn't get to be the $55 million on players or whatever on that list, that doesn't mean Texas Tech has more money, right? Because they're getting so much money from petroleum funding that span is generational wealth. This is incredible. But when you talk about Texas A&M, they're kind of on the outside looking in on that conversation. And while financially they are still dominating us in so many different areas, I think proportionally Texas Tech is taking a lot more strategic strides that Texas A&M is not capitalizing on. One of those things being facilities, right? When you talk about facilities, Texas A&M Stadium is a monolith in terms of like football. I mean, anytime I visit my mother in College Station, you can't not see it because it's over there dominating the skyline.
Great stadium.
It's a great stadium, but outside of that, nothing really. I mean, they're not known for like so the football stadium's great, but they're not like known for their football training facilities. They're not known for like baseball training. They're not known for all these things. And like they may have good stuff, but it's not in the conversation now. It's like Texas Tech has become the team to beat when it comes to facilities. And this used to be the conversation around recruiting prior to NIL, which is the only reason I bring it up. And we're kind of shifting back towards that now with new regulation on NIL, which again, another thing that we were talking about, Texas Tech staying ahead of the game. They said, let's build this damn thing quick and in a hurry and as best as we possibly can, dump a ton of money into it. And now with the NIL regulations kind of coming down, who stands with the best facilities in the country? Texas Tech, right? In terms of like being like a most modern, most up-to-date, most comprehensive football facility in America, it's Texas Tech. And that's a multiple review from different people across the country, right? Now, in terms of like overall program success, you want to talk about if we are going to leverage NCAA championships heavily, it goes to Texas Tech. Because think about it, in the past 5 years, we've won two national championships with the men's track team, where we won the indoor in 24, and then we won the outdoor in 2019. Really exciting year. Texas A&M has only won one, and that was women's tennis last year. Talk about conference titles. You had again, track and field obviously carrying a huge load here, but you also have baseball and basketball having a shared experience in 2019. Basketball having the shared experience in 2019. Baseball having some conference championship. But A&M, no SEC team conference title claimed at all. And you can say, hey, well, the SEC is better. But if we are just having this conversation, we have to put them on the same playing field. Do you have a conference title or do you not? Okay, Texas Tech wins that, right? Deep tournament runs. Yes, Texas Tech has more. Now, A&M, you can go find that volleyball had a Sweet 16 appearance. Pretty good. But overall, very limited team. Even if they are rated as the number 1 softball team in America, they are going out early. They're not sticking around to see the depth of the World Series. They're ending on the highest note they think is possible. You know what? We're number 1. Let's just go out early on a bang, right? Whereas Texas Tech basketball especially has had, Final Four appearance, Elite Eights, our softball World Series. We've had multiple baseball, World Series looks. Texas Tech as a whole, much better, a much more comprehensively successful program. I didn't even mention all the spirit squads. We're just talking about, these main kind of spirit squads, buddy. You're cooked.
Yeah, we're cheer school, baby.
You're cooked.
Let me tell you something. Right. That cheer program is a dynasty.
So I would think that, and I'm me judging as well, but I would think that you have Texas Tech, you have so many sports that are kind of on this rise we've talked about with this this increased investment, whereas Texas A&M has had a continual high investment, but so few capitalizations off of that. Like the proportion for me, if I'm even looking at this I'm biased, proportionally, as an A&M fan, I would be more upset as an A&M fan just existing that we have spent so much money. I mean, talk about Jimbo Fisher for 5 minutes with an Aggie and you'll get the gist. That you spend so much money and the success doesn't amount to what you expect it should be. Whereas Texas Tech, we're having a blast. We're dumping money into a program, and then, buddy, we're in the World Series the next year. It's that easy. How come you guys don't get it? So if Texas Tech ends up winning a Big 12 championship in football and making its appearance in the football playoff after deciding that, you know what, F it, we're just going to dump a bunch of money into this program, dude, Aggies and Texas fans are going to lose their freaking minds because this is what their programs have been doing for decades. And it's very hit or miss. Texas A&M, worst of the two, right? But I think body of work, it's Texas Tech in the past 5 years, no doubt.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm not copying that answer, but I feel pretty I feel pretty strongly with everything you just said. I mean, it's just really hard not to. I mean, that's a perfect answer. I mean, there's just not. I get the kickback from the SEC is the tougher conference, right? But y'all chose to leave, right? And I mean, that's not on us. I mean, you stay in the Big 12, then it's a different. Then we could really compare where we actually stack up over the last 5 to 10 years. But to Jeremy's point, man, it's just if you're looking at across the board, not having a number beside it, and then that's in a national ranking or whatever case or a national seeding or anything like that, we've been able to do more than the Ags of Texas A&M over the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I actually would also argue that though they're in a tougher conference, it also gives them access to more things, right? Football players, for the most part, want to play in the SEC, so it gets them an edge up there. Baseball players want to play in the SEC, gives them the edge there, right? And so, there's a lot of talk about them being in a tougher conference, but also gives them that much more advantage. This is what I will say. You are right, Jeremy, in that A&M fans, even this question is making them miserable. I remember in the 2000s, Tech had a better football program, and it was really tough for A&M to even swallow it. There was a huge article. I can't remember if it was in Chronicle or if it was in Dave Campbell, but basically at the top rivalry in the state. This was in 2009. The top rivalry in the state of Texas was Texas Tech versus A&M, and A&M fans hated it. They were like, oh, no, we're so much better. And actually, the article was like, but you're not. You've actually been losing Texas Tech a lot. That's what makes this a better rivalry, is because you think you're better, but you're not. I think that's where we are right now as an athletics program, that A&M, you think you're better, but you're not. Now, I will say this. I don't think Tech is better either. I think it is right now extremely even between the two. I've been looking over the programs in general. Football, toss-up. Men's basketball, slight edge to Tech. Baseball, toss-up. A&M fans are over here puffing their chest out about being better as a baseball program. We have more College World Series appearances in the last decade. They technically have more since 2020, but that's 2-1. And this year, both of us weren't good. So it's really a toss-up. Softball, like I said, you're the number one team in the country, and then failed in embarrassing fashion, right? To where we were a national runner-up, right? And track, again, we have conference titles to our name at the very least, even though you're ranked higher. So it's a lot of. I think it's really right there as a whole program, and I think the tiebreaker may end up being football next year, right? Which is kind of funny. And let me tell you something. I think Tech feels better about our football team going into next year than A&M does. I'll tell you that much. We didn't have our starting quarterback lead the program, so it is definitely an interesting conversation, and it's it's brought back the A&M hate a little bit more, which I like. Right now that Texas is out of the conference, we can now hate them evenly like we used to, and we can choose to. The greatest thing about Texas and Texas A&M being on even playing field is that obviously we hate them both, but now we can choose which one we hate more for like legit reasons, like the fact that A&M is just weird in so many different ways. And so, do we hate the A&M weirdness more than the UT elitism? I do, because it's just, what are you doing here? Somebody was making fun of the Yell leaders on College Football 25 the other day, and I found it hilarious. So there's that. But yeah, I do think it's even right now. But I think that's, like I said, now that we're on the national scale, the fact that we're having this conversation about us being even and potentially surpassing A&M would be great. And then we just keep climbing that ladder, so on and so forth. So, Joe, it was great to have you back on the pod here. Anything else you want to say to the people?
No, it was great. Like I said, it's been a long time coming, just to be back on here with you guys and talking Tech sports, it's especially ending on such a high note with the softball program. And, ultimately, our softball program, and if we get our baseball program back on, man, the off-season period that we're going to have between sports is going to get shorter and shorter, because football,
Thank God.
Football's about to be around the corner. So it's just like, man, a blessing in disguise, I guess. I don't know however you want to look at it, but I mean, yeah, it makes for a very fun talks, about Tech sports and, them, getting traction, and then that notoriety nationally from everybody, for potentially all the right reasons. Hey, we found a formula and it works, and we were the first to do it, so now all you guys are copycats of what we do. It's almost like the Mike Leach and the air raid concept. It's just so many different forms around college football now that are based off of what Coach Leach did and stuff like that. So I kind of feel that it's kind of like in that same kind of umbrella. So great time to be a Red Raider, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to say to the people, Jeremy?
As far as protected rivalries go, I would say Texas A&M is more important to me than Texas Tech. Or, excuse me, Texas Tech. I think having a protected rivalry against Texas A&M means more to me than having a protected rivalry against Texas. I would enjoy that more than longevity.
I would too.
Yeah, screw those guys. All right. And then that's for me. One thing I do want to say is great to have Joe back on the podcast. Congratulations to Ariana Lopez for graduating from Friendship High School.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
All that jazz.
Her and the other 734 classmates.
Girl.
But it's a long one, buddy. It was a long one.
Girl, welcome to adulthood, everybody else. Bills in the mail. Get a job. On that note, get up out of here. So for Joe Lopez, for Jeremy Gillen, this is your boy Albie Shore, and you've been listening to the Tortillas and Takes podcast, part of the 1012 Network. As always, stay right, people.